Hi, you're watching India Post Live, India's first web TV news conversation online, and I'm Shivraj, and today our focus on a special entrepreneur, Mann Ka Radio, a Kashmiri community radio station. You too can join in on the conversation by logging on to indiapostlive.com. You can also tweet with us, hashtag India Post Live. We use the handle India Post Live. Right, our focus today is on a community radio station in Kashmir. Radio Sharda, an FM community channel that is aimed at preserving Kashmiri culture. The motto of the channel is listen and be happy, and it's also available online. I'm not going to give away too much about the channel. Let's take a look.
हमारी यंगर जनरेशन्स और हमारी ओल्डर जनरेशन्स और हमारा वो आदमी जो who got displaced from Kashmir by dint of militancy and any other things and threats and security threats, उनको जो pride of belonging होता है ना, वो उनसे लगता था कि छीन गया है या खो गया है. वो जो sense of belonging है, जो pride of belonging है, वो हमने उनको वापस देने की कोशिश करी है इस रेडियो शारदा के माध्यम से. During the initial days, people were excited, really, and they are still excited because they didn't find any medium of their own for last 23 years, 22 years or 21 years. 90 to 2000 का जो डिकेड रहा, उसमें उनका सर्वाइवल था. हम अपने आप को कैसे बचा सके. छोटे बच्चों के लिए तो चैलेंज है ही है. वो तो अभी मतलब जो 8-10 साल का है या 8-10 साल से कम है या 4 साल 5 साल का है, वो इसी एनवायरनमेंट में, यहाँ के एनवायरनमेंट में पैदा हुआ है.
What a wonderful initiative to use the power of community radio to get an entire community to relive their culture and really sustain and preserve it. Well, joining us in studio to discuss that is Ranish Hanglu, who is a co-founder of Radio Sharda. Thank you very much for being here. And Shivani Bazaz, who has also been an intern at Radio Sharda, is now a media professional in her own right. Now, Ranish, give us a flavor of what went behind creating Radio Sharda. What was it that motivated you, and what is the whole purpose of the community radio channel that you've started?
This whole process started 15 years ago when my father started one NGO. The NGO is named Peer Panchal. Peer Panchal NGO works for the betterment of Kashmiri Pandit community and for the sustainability of Kashmiri Pandit culture. Kashmiri Pandits got displaced after 1990. They got settled down primarily in Jammu region and across the globe, I would say. So while working for the NGO Peer Panchal, my father used to travel a lot. So in 2007, while traveling to United Kingdom, London, he went to one cultural meet, Luton cultural meet, and there he got he touched base with few community radios in London. So from there we got one inspiration. So and then in 2008, I assume, yes, at that time we saw one advertisement from Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. They invited people from NGOs to start up community radios across various states in India, and we applied. So what happens is when you apply for a community radio station in India, you need to describe a cause. So what we did was we gave them a cause to sustain Kashmiri Pandit culture. And that is how the journey started in 2008. And in 2011, almost after 4 years, we got the license to run the community radio station.
Okay, so you're 3 years old now and you've clearly got a huge following, and I think the online space also helps your cause as well, doesn't it?
Yes, of course. We have actually managed to gauge a huge audience through online medium. through smartphones, through website. People across the globe, in United States, in Norway, in Australia, in Dubai, everywhere people log into Radio Sharda and listen to it. And it's sort of a challenge for us also. For example, sometimes if our radio station, if there's any technical glitch that takes place, even for 10 minutes, if it stops for playing at 10 minutes, we get calls from across the globe. So that's a huge challenge for
that's
us.
An amazing power and reach of community radio as
yes,
well. And Shivani, when you interned at Radio Sharda, what were your impressions? What did you take away from that entire experience? Because clearly, from what one reads, Radio Sharda is programming in so many different languages that preserves culture for an entire young generation that would otherwise not have that ability to connect with their culture if it wasn't for something like Radio Sharda.
Basically, when I got to know about this Radio Sharda, the institution, I was really touched, and this was like the point that I was like, I need to go there and just need to work with them. Because in 2011, as he said, that they started in 2011, when that time I was in Delhi, and when I went back home in Jammu, I just saw a great difference there. I just saw people, not a single radio in a household. It was like a radio in every room of a household. Everyone is listening to radio. And I was like, what is this huge difference that has been made in such a small time? When I was back in Delhi, it was not like, nothing like that. But when I heard, and I just had this connect with the radio channel, and I just wanted to go and visit them. And I finally interned with them, and it is really a great organization, I must say, that it connects to each and every person of a generation that really needs a connect. Basically what we are losing is a cultural heritage, is an identity, and losing an identity is really a big deal. And this radio channel is not just entertaining people, it's connecting everybody of them. It's connecting the youth who got disconnected to their cultural identity, and I think it's a great thing. And what I took back from, I think when I completed my internship and I just came back to Delhi, I wasn't able to speak properly in Hindi. I just inculcated Kashmiri words in Hindi. So this was a great thing that happened to me, and I just got far more connected to my language, to my culture through this institution. I just thank this organization for that.
So that's really interesting, because it's a cultural renaissance that you're creating. You're trying to bring back things that, like you said, 23 years ago with the displacement, a lot of things were lost because people moved to other locations far away from the origins of where they came from. Give us a flavor of the kind of programming that you do, because I gather there's some 16 hours of programming a day. But what kind of programs do you do? How do you go about executing them?
We have a small but then very energetic and very quality team that manage our programming content. We start our morning with Aradhana. We play our cultural music in that show. After that, we play one half an hour segment that's called Vangishvor. Vangishvor is a program that is based on day-to-day affairs of Kashmiri Pandit community, where a group of people, they come to our studio, they discuss about the issues, and it's in such a lively format that everyone feels that this is somewhere happening. And Vangishvor is our most listened show. And then we have shows based on health, we have shows for the kids, we have shows for women. And we also have shows where people participate in the day-to-day activities. We go to various households, we speak to them, we get their feedback, we interact with them. And that is how they feel connected to it.
Interesting, because then there's an incentive to not just listen, to be part of the entire exercise of reviving conversations around cultural issues, around social issues as well, community issues. We're also joined online from Norway by Virji Wang, who's an IT entrepreneur. Virji, what are your impressions of Radio Sharda? Do you listen to it? Do your family members listen to it? Are you hooked, as a lot of people say that they are, to Radio Sharda?
So, for me, I think the Radio Sharda has three meanings, to be upfront positive with you. One is as a listener. Of course, like it's part of our life since morning to evening. And even when in the middle of night, I'm about to sleep, it's just like a lullaby next to me, and I just put it on and before I go to sleep. And sometimes when it doesn't work, I'm the first one probably to disturb Ranesh, Ramesh, or anybody else. Hey, what's happening? Why it's not working today? Because I can't get to go to sleep unless until I hear some good Kashmiri songs from it. That's as a listener. Second, as a technocrat, For me, Radio Sharda, right from the beginning, when I first listened to it, I remember in Jammu 3 years back, was that, oh guys, it must go out of Jammu. It must reach to every Kashmiri Pandit across the world. So as a technocrat, that was the first thought that came to my mind. The third, of course, as a Kashmiri Pandit, it is something which connects me to the identity that I'm fast losing. Second, it makes sure that I am abreast with the real issues on ground. For example, it might be the issues related with the old people who are back in Jammu and because the young generations have moved out. It might be about Puran to Puran, which they broadcast usually. And to be frank enough, it's one platform where every song has a history behind it. It might be from a cultural composite of all Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and so many other people who represent JNK. They all are together on one platform here. So that gives me a kind of, that context to my legacy that I carry as a Kashmiri. Also, one of the very important pieces that I must let you know here, for the first time, you won't believe, my mom is going back to Delhi in a couple of weeks from now. The only demand from all my 6 to 7 uncles across Jammu has been, send us a good radio which can catch Radio Sharda signals. And you won't believe, I actually researched for the first time on an analog system, purchased the best analog radio sets, and I have actually going to give them back to my uncles back in Jammu so that the signal can be caught. So that's the kind of impact it is having on our day-to-day life. I hope that gives some.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. And Renish, I'd like you to actually respond, because clearly this is real-time feedback on the impact, the reach that Radio Sharda has on the one hand, and also it puts a lot of responsibility on your shoulders as well, doesn't it?
First of all, thank you so much, VZ, for sharing such a feedback. Second thing is, you see, community radios are governed by Government of India. This is an initiative by Government of India. So whatever we do, we have to adhere to the policy of INB Ministry. We also need to understand that whatever permission is given to us, we need to follow that thing. We cannot go beyond it. We cannot come under it also. So the power wattage of the community radio is less than what is given to the private FM channels. So in that case, the transmission strength, that is called in technical terms, that is less than the private FM channels. So in certain areas where there are some geographical constraints, there the signal goes down, and that is where the problem occurs. And then we have, obviously we are working on this front also. We have also started an initiative from our end so that we can seek permission from Government of India so that they can give us permission to actually install few more transmitters, or give us permission to increase the power wattage, so that these kind of hurdles, we can overcome them.
We're also joined by a father online as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramesh Hanglu, for joining us there. And we just had a call in from Norway, from VG Vangu, who was very emotional about Radio Sharda and how his mother's coming back to Delhi, and the one ask from all the aunts in Jammu is, can you please get us good radios that can catch Radio Sharda, because we are really hooked onto it. What do you make to all these very emotional and very sort of complimentary reactions to what you're doing as an initiative?
Yes, I thank you for giving a chance for all of us to speak together and to have feedback for Radio Sharda. Really, Virji Vangu is one of the essential components of Radio Sharda as a person. It's not that anybody can do any act individually, or some collectiveness is required. We're happy that people here in Jammu and around the globe are connected to Radio Sharda and are listening it. Basically, our main motto was that when we were forced to leave the valley and we got settled somewhere, the primary thing which probably we could see is that we had lost the sense of belonging. We have lost the sense of attachment. So the initiative which would have been practical and would connect people practically through one platform and to give them that sense of belonging is, I think, the Radio Sharda. And I appreciate V.G. Vangu's comments for giving such a wonderful comments to the Radio Sharda. And a lot of things, which we are facing and which we have faced, did not really share with the people, but we are so pleased that the Kashmiri Pandit community around the globe, in Jammu, and wherever any Kashmiri Pandit is, they have taken it as supportive and they support us. We thank them all.
And so Ranish was actually also telling us how you're looking at setting up more transmissions, or at least working with the government of India to get those permissions. But what are your future plans for Radio Sharda?
See, Radio Sharda is itself a challenge. Our challenge is that our progeny is connected to the roots. Our challenge is that our progeny is connected to the language. Our challenge is that we need to develop globally. Our challenge are that the people around Jammu who don't listen to Radio Sharda should start listening. We are working on it. We are working with the government of India. We have been talking to them, and we may be upgrading our system when permitted. And I don't think as yet nobody is aware about the Radio Sharda. Everybody is aware, and they do listen whenever they get time. And the maximum challenge which we have is to have a common good and well connect, so that we will think our goals are achieved globally, here and everywhere where we are.
Okay, Ranish, clearly, your father's the brainchild behind Radio Sharda, but how seriously do you take kind of feedback that you get online? Because I'm sure globally a lot of people, like VG was mentioning, would want to write in, send in their comments, their feedbacks. How do you incorporate that into your programming?
We are very open about it. We have our Facebook page, we are open on through emails, we have a landline number that almost every Kashmiri Pandit household has right now in Jammu. So we are very open to feedbacks, but then we as in the whole Kashmiri Pandit community should understand how this system works. So, and we obviously are working towards the betterment. See, because when we started this thing, we started with an objective for the community. So we know each and everything what is happening, but then there has to be some plan, some strategy to overcome those hurdles.
Absolutely, and I guess it's about getting across upgradation through permissions and the whole bureaucracy. We're also joined online by Ashutosh Taplu, who's president of the Tikala Taplu Foundation. Ashutosh, do you listen to Radio Sharda, and what are your reactions to this initiative to try and bring Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiris displaced from their homes under one cultural common cause banner?
Yes, really, thanks to the Hanglu Saab that he had made us proud by providing this Kashmiri channel, only one Kashmiri channel, which is Radio Sharda. I will tell you one thing, when my kids were around 10 and 12 years of age, they were always telling me that we are talking so much high about the Kashmiri culture, and we are talking so high about that we are so many Kashmiri peoples all over the world and such an educated people. So why don't we create our own television channel so that we can reach our voice to the different people all part of the world. But the day I realized that Sharda Radio is there, so my kids listen to this Radio Sharda, and really I'm telling you, we feel very proud of this, that we have a Sharda Radio. Sharda Radio is now, it's a part of our life now, I can say, because even now my kids can speak Kashmiri better because of Mr. Hanglu and Sharda Radio. They listen Kashmiri, they can understand our culture, and many times whenever we have some cultural activity programs, so the Radio Sharda is there, who tells us the story, how it happened, why it happens. So really it is, I can understand, because I'm looking forward that Mr. Hanglu and our Sharda Radio should go globally now, all part of the world. And I can understand, being in a Kashmiri Pandit radio station, the difficulties he must be facing with the government of India, which is obvious, but I'm sure that the future, it's very obvious. I know, I can understand it is not easy for a Kashmiri Pandit to launch a radio station, and it is not easy for us to get the permission easily to launch our towers and other things. But I'm sure he has such a strength, and his son, thanks very highly regards to his son. He's an important member of our community, and he is working regularly for the community. And Virji Wangnu, what can I say about him? I'm elder to him, but I'm still learning from him. Hats off to you, Hangluji. This Radio Sharda you have provided to us is part of our life, and it will remain always part of our life.
Rameshji, if you could sort of react, I guess, it has clearly become a central part of every new generation. It connects them to the language, to the culture, to the habits, the fact that no matter where they are one community. You heard that reaction. What is your response? And of course, what do you foresee as the biggest challenge to taking it to a much wider scale?
Thanks, Ashish, for his comments. And the biggest challenge which we all have, it's not that Ramesh Hangla has a challenge. It is that when we are in the community, everybody has to realize a lot about the community. So we have to create new innovations, new strategies, new ways to educate our younger generation about the 5,000 years of rich culture and ancestry which we had. We are proud as Kashmiri Pandits. We around the globe are being respected for our Kashmiri Pandit legacy. But having said that, it's our prime duty to educate our young children and the people around the globe that what our ancestry was. Our challenges are increasing day by day. We are open to the challenge, but at the same time, we want that community around the globe should cooperate with our challenge so that it, at the end of the day, becomes a community issue and community realization.
Absolutely, a common cause. Ranish, the one thing that comes to mind when you interact with young Kashmiris is, of course, they're going to be exposed to a global culture. There's this whole Americanism that's creeping in, MTV generation, new fads, new genes. How do you address those issues and still preserve the sanctity of your culture and your language?
We have to speak their language.
Okay.
We have to speak their language and start feeding them this Kashmiri culture slowly. And also there's one more thing. Culture is like a river. It keeps on flowing, it keeps on finding its own path. The Kashmiri Pandit culture that was, let me say, 3,000 years old, that was not there 100 years before. So Kashmiri Pandit culture that was 50 years before, that was not 10 years before. So culture keeps on changing, but the essence, the basic fabric has to remain intact. So we need to feed them that basic fabric. Start communicating with them at the grassroots level, at their at home places, and there has to be what you call a carrot and a stick kind of a formula. You speak Kashmiri, you get a carrot. If you don't speak, you don't speak to them. So that is how I also learned to speak Kashmiri. I'll be very honest with you. When I was born in Kashmir. I was 2 years old when I was in Kashmir. When we left Kashmir Valley, we were in Jammu. I was in Jammu for around about 14 to 15 years. And my father, he never spoke to me in Hindi or in English. He always told me, you have to speak in Kashmiri when you are at home. And whenever you used to speak to him Hindi or in English, he never used to talk to me. He never used to respond to me. So that is how I also learned this mechanism. So that is how everyone should learn it. And I don't believe that people say if you speak in regional language and you won't be able to speak in English or in Hindi and you won't be able to cope up. I don't think so.
So that actually comes from something that Shivani said, that she came back to Delhi and a bit of Kashmiri words started creeping into the language. What are the reactions from your peers and friends around? Were they intrigued? Did you educate them?
Basically, you see, whenever we have some Bengali friends, we have Tamilian friends, they always have that mother tongue influence in their language. Mm-hmm. And nobody says to them that this is not good or something like that. But it's just from inside that you feel it, right? When I came back, obviously, the effect and the impact of the radio station was so vast that I cannot express it to you. But yeah, my friends who used to hang out with me, they used to learn it from me, and they used to grab some certain words and they used to inculcate in their language also. So why can't we? When we hang out with our Tamilian friends and we take out stuff like for example, we have a lot of Punjabi friends with us and we speak Punjabi, we understand Punjabi. Why can't we, being Kashmiris, learn Kashmiri language? And this is really a challenge. This was a challenge, I guess, 3 years back for us. But now I think the youth is connected.
And what about the non-Kashmiri friends you have? Have you had the opportunity to have them listen to Radio Sharda online?
Yeah, obviously. When for example, I used to intern there, and I did radio joking for the sake of it, I must say. Wishing birthdays and everything. I used to like it. I used to have this. gradually gathered that hold on the Kashmiri language, and I used to be on air for some time. So all my friends used to listen to that, and they were like, we don't understand it, but it's a sweet language, and it's really nice to hear to you. So yeah, they used to do that. And the basic crux of the matter is that when I, being a Kashmiri, can understand Punjabi just because my Punjabi friends always keep on talking and speaking in their own language, why can't we, being Kashmiri youth, make people understand this and understand it in our ways also, and make people and our own Kashmiri friends talk in the same language, our own language, that is Kashmiri.
Okay, let's go back to Norway. Virji, you were saying how, that it's taken a hold, it's become almost second nature for you to go to sleep listening to Radio Sharda. But what about your kids and the younger generation? What have their reactions been?
Okay, I will come up with an example. Yesterday we were having tea in the evening, and then Sushma ji, there's a character which comes on program on Radio Sharda, and my radio was on the corner, and then it's internet plugged radio, of course. And then my daughter comes like, Papa, Sushma ji has come once again. Would you like to talk to her? It's like as if some person who comes daily to our home, and then she's part of our family, as if she had come, and then I was supposed to talk to her. And then of course, some key elements, I suppose, which are there. Like I was in Kashmir for almost 14 years or 13 years of my life. The songs that I listened at that time on Radio Kashmir. And then there's a huge gap of 15, 20 years, right? Till the time, almost 20 years, I would say, till Radio Sharda came into existence. When you listen to those songs again, right, you reconnect.
Absolutely.
You reconnect your childhood. And you won't believe, it's not only those songs which are more like traditional Kashmiri Pandit, even the Natya Kalams, which are Muslims. Some of these Natya Kalams I could actually recite. And I usually know when somebody comes home and I'm like, what are you reciting? I said, it's a Sufi Natya Kalam in Kashmiri. Oh, how can you do that? I said, yes, why can't I do that? Because I just listen to it and I can still recite it. And the connect which comes out are twofold. One, I listen to a voice which I have been deprived of in exile. In the same way, the people who are back there, they have been deprived of listening to a voice which is in exile. They listen to the voice of a Kashmiri Pandit, and we listen to the voice of a Kashmiri Muslim. You must see a four-long conclusion in this. Psychologically, ideologically, as well as culturally. A culture which was broken long back, like in the partition of Punjab. And now again you see people of Pakistan coming here and people of Punjabi origin going back to Lahore, and the reconnect coming into picture. That social cultural recollect and the reconnect which happens at the lowest strata of society is through this radio. It has a far-reaching consequence if you look at it from the broader aspect. And for a family like me, like ours particularly, whether it's my wife, my mother, my kids, or anybody else, we do often talk about the subjects which I discussed on the radio now. As I said, the parental care back in Jammu, and the key things that we talk about the social dowry systems or the flamboyance that people show even in the marriage, so all the small topics which are impacting our society pre-1990 and post-1990, they get discussed, they get a platform to discuss about. And I think that's the biggest contribution that they are making. How to survive is one thing, but at the same time, how to evolve and enhance our society. That's where Radio Sharda is making a big impact.
Thank you very much for that input. And I'm going to leave Mr. Ramesh Hanglu with the last word on the show because we're completely out of time. Your reactions to what you just heard, clearly you're bringing something very special to the community. And your motto is listen and be happy. How does it make you feel when you hear the kind of testimonials that you just did from Virji way out in Norway?
See, every positive action will pay at the end of the day. Being a Kashmiri, we all have obligation to get connected to the Kashmiri ethos, to be a part of the Kashmiri legacy. And as Virji rightly said, there's a connect between the people in Kashmir and the people outside Kashmir. So I will tell you that people inside Kashmir do listen to Radio Sharda. And people around the globe, I may tell you one of the yesterday's story.
Anita Dar from New Zealand, she rang our Radio Sharda studio, and fortunately I took the call. She said that there is a tornado in New Zealand, and the fact is every radio channel has stopped, but Radio Sharda is running. What is the miracle? I don't know the miracle, but she said, I'm so happy that it's only Radio Sharda. Even the local radio stations have stopped. I mean, leaving us again. So, but our prime duty is, our prime concern is to give the belonging to a person who belongs to a particular and a very distinct culture in the world. See, Kashmiri Pandit culture is not, it's a unique culture around the world. It's not that we may be talking in Kashmiri. It's that we should be, at the end of the day, thinking as Kashmiri Pandits. Because the thought process of a Kashmiri Pandit was such a great thought process that it could revolutionize the entire world. We can make the biggest philosophers in this world. See, there is no, that we can't see, this Trikka philosophy has no parallel in the entire world. So as the thinkers, as achievers, as advanced learners, Kashmiri Pandit has to go to that process, and that Radio Sharda, if is able to give him that faith, then we must be thankful to our
All right. Thank you very much. It is clearly Mann Ka Radio, community radio in the true sense. You two can continue the conversation that you just heard today by logging on to Twitter and writing in at #IndiaPostLive. Thank you for watching.